I had been stacking firewood on the side of my property for the coming winter. Living in a neighborhood with harsh winters, I always made sure I was well prepared. A good woodpile meant I could heat my home without worrying about blackouts or sky-high electric bills. The smell of pine and oak filled the air as I neatly stacked the logs, proud of the work I'd put in. Of course, nothing in our HOA ever went unnoticed, especially by Karen, the self-appointed sheriff of our community. She was the type who would measure your grass with a ruler or file a complaint if your recycling bin was left out an extra hour. Everyone hated dealing with her, but I seemed to be her favorite target. Sure enough, while I was finishing up the last load, I heard her shrill voice from across the street. "What do you think you're doing with all that wood?" she barked, arms folded tightly across her chest. "Preparing for winter," I replied flatly, not even looking up. "That's a violation. You can't have piles of debris lying around. It's a fire hazard." "First of all," I said, brushing sawdust off my hands, "this is stacked neatly on my property. Second, it's not debris, it's firewood." But Karen wouldn't listen. She pulled out her phone and, in a move that shocked absolutely no one, dialed 911. Within 15 minutes, a patrol car rolled up. The officer stepped out, looking slightly confused. "We got a call about stolen firewood?" "Stolen?" I blinked. Karen strutted forward. "Yes, officer. That man stole wood from my property. I saw him loading it up earlier. That's my wood." I nearly laughed. "Your wood?" "Karen, I bought this from the lumber yard 2 towns over. I have the receipt in my garage if you want to see it." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, do you have proof that this wood belongs to you?" Karen sputtered. Well, no, but I know it's mine. He's been stealing from me for months. Just look at how guilty he looks." The cop turned to me. "Sir, if you don't mind showing me that receipt, we can clear this up quickly." I brought him into the garage, where I had a stack of paperwork from the lumber yard. The officer examined it and nodded. "Everything checks out." When we returned outside, Karen was already snapping pictures of my woodpile like some kind of deranged investigator. "Ma'am," the officer said firmly, "this man legally purchased his firewood. Filing a false police report is a serious offense." Karen's smug expression faltered. But it looks just like mine. Do you even have a woodpile?" the officer asked. She froze. "No." At that point, I couldn't hold back my laughter. "So let me get this straight. You called the cops to accuse me of stealing your wood? That doesn't exist?" The officer gave me a subtle smirk before turning back to Karen. "If I get another frivolous call like this, you'll be facing charges." "Understood." Karen's face turned beet red, and she stormed back to her house without another word. But the story doesn't end there. 2 days later, I noticed something odd. A few logs missing from the pile. At first, I thought maybe I had miscounted. But then I spotted fresh sawdust leading across the street, straight to Karen's garage. Curious, I walked over that evening when she was out. Through the window, I saw it. My logs, awkwardly stacked in the corner of her garage, with one of them still bearing the bright orange lumber yard sticker. The next morning, I called the same officer who had handled the original complaint. He came by, I showed him the evidence, and together we knocked on Karen's door. When she opened it and saw us, her eyes widened. "Karen," the officer said, "we've received a report of theft. May we check your garage?" She stammered, but eventually opened the door. There it was, my firewood, plain as day. The officer shook his head. "Ma'am, not only did you falsely accuse your neighbor of theft, but you actually stole from him afterward. This is serious." Karen tried to argue, claiming, "Well, he had too much wood. He didn't need it all." I stood there, arms crossed, savoring the moment. "So your solution was to steal it?" The officer issued her a citation on the spot and warned that if she didn't return every single piece immediately, further charges would follow. By that evening, she was hauling the logs back across the street, one by one, in full view of the neighbors. People came out of their homes just to watch the spectacle. Some even clapped. Since then, Karen has avoided me completely, though I still catch her glaring whenever she drives past. The neighborhood has nicknamed her the Wood Thief, and honestly, I couldn't think of a more fitting title.